Greetings, greetings. How's everybody? Good? How are the first two sessions for you? Oh, you can do a lot better than that. Please, wake up. We're about to go future hunting. So for our next section, Brian David Johnson is a futurist and principal engineer with Intel. Brian is also a published author with 10 book titles, ranging from science fiction to popular science. He's a commissioned fine artist who works in large-scale acrylic paintings and has also directed 2 feature films. Brian will be interviewing will.i.am, a 7-time Grammy Award winner, Emmy Award winner, Clio Award recipient, recently featured on the cover of Fortune magazine's annual Future issue. Will is also an entrepreneur who uses computing power to run his portfolio of companies, create award-winning music, TV shows and films, and to communicate directly with his fans. He's a leading advocate of the importance of STEAM education, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And through his I Am Angel Foundation, Will funds college-bound tutoring programs and full college scholarships for underserved high school students. Let's give a warm Macworld welcome to Brian David Johnson and will.i.am.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Well, that's good. There we go. Come on, it's Macworld, for heaven's sakes. We're going to talk about the future. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Future Hunting with will.i.am and Brian David Johnson. I am Brian David Johnson, and this is
Robert. I'm Will. Thanks.
So, Future Hunting with will.i.am and Brian David Johnson. It sounds like our own show. It's like a Sunday morning show.
Except we didn't have the theme song when we walked in.
Yeah, we need a theme song. I wish I knew a musician, actually, who could do that. That would be cool, I think. So, what we want to talk to you about this morning is something called future hunting. And future hunting is something that Will and I both do, and it's something in our collaboration that we spend a lot of our time talking about. And I'm Intel's futurist, so it's my job to look 10, 15 years out and model how people will act and interact with technology. Basically what it'll feel like to be a human. And that's based on social science, computer science, all these different inputs, all these different scientific inputs. But one of the big things that I do is travel around the world future hunting, looking for instances of the future today that we might be able to kind of pull out and learn from. And when I met Will a few years ago, when we started talking, I realized very early on that Will was actually a futurist and that you were actually doing future hunting.
Yeah, it sounds all heavy and scientific, but really it's just people, looking at people and having that relationship with folks. Whether you're in Brazil and you notice, things like obrigado is same vowels and rhythm as arigato in Japan. And you start thinking, I wonder why that happened. Should I just take that for granted and not look in history on where it came from first, from obrigado to arigato? Because they're so far apart. They look totally different cultures.
Yeah.
And so when you start, traveling the world and you see these similarities in cultures, and then you're making music and people respond to your music the same way in different cultures. So you're in Malaysia and you're singing I Got a Feeling, and it's you and your friends, and you say fill up my cup, and 60,000 Muslims say Mazel Tov. That is a beautiful, wonderful thing.
Or you have kids, because Will will tell me, because Will and I talk about pretty much every week, that you'll have kids go by you on water buffaloes, singing your songs.
Yeah, so we were in the Philippines, and we were going through the jungles of the Philippines, and Apple was like, Will, I want to take you to my Providence and show you how I grew up. So I finally got a chance to see my best friend's upbringings and how he spent his youth. And so I'm like, wow, App, you really bathed in that river there? He was like, yeah, that's how we bathed. That's how we washed our clothes, and we rode on water buffaloes. So we're driving through these quads through the jungles, and we see these kids on water buffaloes, and they say, Black Eyed Peas. So I'm like, wow, this is
So this is one of the things that we were talking about last week. So because we knew we were going to come here, we were going to talk to you guys, and we were super excited, and we want to kind of say, well, what is future hunting all about? There's sort of the work that we had done for years, but we've been evolving it, and we've started writing this kind of manifesto and thinking about sort of future hunting, and Will came up with this concept of omniology.
Yeah.
Like this idea of synthesizing all these different ideas.
So as it relates to, you could say, like, what is that water buffalo, and the fact that that guy said black eyed peas have anything to do with future hunting and this concept of omniology. So if you take the very powerful ologies and how it relates to what folks are going to be doing in the future, as it relates to that, you have a guy in the Philippines on a water buffalo, geology. And in his hand is technology, and social, his social experience and popular culture gave him a commonality between where I come from, and that little commonality was music and technology. So it changed, my whole perspective, his perspective, because we gave us something that we had in common, as well as Brazil.
Yeah.
So if you forward that in the future, the Philippines will bypass what America had to go through and what we're struggling now with jobs and new technologies that come, and they're going to bypass everything that we've had to go through to get there, and that guy's going to jump from water buffalo to cell phone, and potentially, if there's a STEM center in Pampanga, in Angela City, teaching kids STEM, they will create something that people in LA couldn't fathom.
Right.
Because in LA, we have this lineage of things in steps. When that guy on the water buffalo, he didn't learn how to crawl. So what he's going to envision and imagine is something totally different perspective. So you gotta, keep that in mind when you go out and travel the world and do philanthropy, to think what and where are the next places you want to take your STEM centers. So it's Boyle Heights, Philippines, Pampanga, Angela City.
Well, and I think what's important is as you start to find this innovation coming out, like you're saying, Will, is that the quality, the type of that innovation that comes out of different countries, something that comes out of the favelas in Rio de Janeiro, amazing innovation is very different than the innovation that, say, comes from Silicon Valley. They're both good, but the differences are just amazing. And that's this idea of omniology, is this idea of how do we pull together, take from disparate inputs, synthesize it together, and think about it, and think, okay, well, what can we learn from people all over? Doesn't matter where they come from, doesn't matter what their background is, but we can learn from all of those and put those together. And one of the terms that we also started throwing around was for Will, because I'm a futurist, and I believe Will's a futurist, but I'm just a futurist. But Will conducts popthropology. This idea of going and looking at popular culture and pulling all that in.
Yeah, so an anthropologist goes out and looks at human behavior, but doesn't really affect human behavior.
Right.
They study it. And a lot of the behavior that they're studying comes from folks that impact popular culture. So if you're going out from the perspective to learn, to influence and impact, then you're kind of a popthropologist, because it's studying to impact.
Yep.
To studying and seeing to create. So that becomes your muse, the behavior and what folks are doing, and understanding frequencies, like, wow, check that out. And I know it just happens to be, in the club, but certain frequencies give you a concept of why people, do what they do in social gatherings, because they'll do it totally different if it was different types of frequencies, and how those frequencies play in, correspond with fashion and technology. And then you scratch your head and wonder why fashion and technology hasn't married.
Have come together. Yeah.
Haven't come together. Two worlds that haven't come together, like music and fashion have come together. But fashion and technology hasn't come together. It's like there's going to be a New York Fashion Week. There's not going to be no tech there. But because tech is at CES. And you go to CES and see all the consumer electronics, but it's not at fashion. Right? But it's great for Apple, because all the fashion guys just make Apple bags, which is cool.
Well, and that's one of the things, and then we're gonna dive right in. We're actually gonna get into sort of the things that we've been seeing, the things that Will's been seeing, the things that I've been seeing. We got some stuff to talk to you about. But it was funny when we were getting ready for this, people were like, "Oh, well, let me see your script." This is the script. Literally, this is pretty much what Will and I do on a monthly basis, whether it be on the phone or when we see each other. It's basically just a couple of guys, a couple of geeks getting together and talking about stuff. But one of the components, to go back to talking about this manifesto around future hunting with pop anthropology and omniology, is you have to build, right? You have to create and collaborate and build, which I think is one of the things that we're going to get into today. And I think one of the things that's so important for Macworld and so important for what everybody does here is that it's not good enough to have a vision for this future. It's not good enough to travel the world and see great things going on. You have to have that vision, and then you have to go and build it. You have to manifest that future that you have in your head.
Yeah, it's just, I remember in 1997 and 8, just traveling, just coming home and telling stories. That was fantastic. Like, I can't wait to go to France again and come back home to my community and tell folks and share my experiences. And I can't wait to take pictures and show them what it's like. Then I remember going to Singapore in 2005. Singapore was totally different than it is the Singapore that you have now. And just see the growth, it's just mind-blowing and just amazing, that country.
Well, and I think
and then you come back home, and I see my neighborhood like, wow, there's no growth. So to your point of applying, so you have to apply. You apply easier when you're influenced and inspired by real growth. So it gives me energy to go and see growth, whether it's Singapore or Bangalore, India, and seeing like, wow, I remember what it was like in 2005, and I know what it's like in 2011. I really got to change my community.
Right.
And whether it's like sending kids to school debt-free or bailing families out from losing their homes because there's no jobs. Let me do a conference. So I started my conference called Transform, where we bring like people like Brian David Johnson. He does that with me. And then we bring other speakers. Last year we had the CEO of Burberry, Angela, who's amazing.
We had a synthetic biologist. So,
yeah.
So it's basically what you would imagine if you had a futurist in will.i.am putting on a conference where you bring together. It's kind of geeky and kind of cool. So you go from the CEO of Burberry to a synthetic biologist to a poet, then to like a person who was chasing the Higgs at CERN to a dance troupe.
Yeah, and it's great. We raised $8 million, and then to further our build of that STEM center in Boyle Heights. To really encourage these kids to dream about, bringing things to culture from that neighborhood's perspective, rather than, I can't wait to get up out of this neighborhood. Why can't we change? Because I was from that generation. I can't wait to leave my ghetto. But I think this generation now, looking from traveling around the world and seeing what tomorrow looks like the kids saying, I can't wait to change my ghetto.
Yep.
Right? In the past told you, I can't wait to get out of here. Tomorrow is, I can't wait to change this. Because we live in this connected world, so people don't have to travel anymore. Like, I remember when I was 16, I was like, I can't wait to get a car. What? It's gonna be the bomb.
You wanted a Toyota, right?
Right. 17, I can't wait to get a car. Then I got my car. If I ask my little 17-year-old cousin right now, he ain't tripping on a car. He doesn't even have to travel. To talk to his friends, his friends is in his pocket. So we have this new phenomenon of youth to where they're in their environment, and they're going to change their environment if we give them the tools and encourage them to change their neighborhood. It's going to go from like, I remember when I was 20, there wasn't organic. Oh man, this is organic right here, son. You know what I'm saying? Organic oranges. It wasn't that. Everything was just oranges. And it's going to go from organic to local. It's going to be local farming, local changing. It's going to be manufacturing in your house.
And that's the idea behind Transform, is that it's not good enough, as we said before, to have a vision. It's not good enough to say, this is the future that I want to have, but you've got to do something about it. And when we say do something about it, very specifically with Transform, is last year, we're going to change Boyle Heights. That was the idea. We got all these people together. We did the conference. We did the concert. We made millions of dollars and literally affected the lives of these kids, and it started to spread. I mean, I am completely humbled by the effect that we've actually not only had on the kids, but then even the respondents and the people who were at the Transform conference, their lives were literally transformed. I mean, some of these videos and these testimonials that we've heard from people, it's just amazing where they say their life was transformed by getting together with people who weren't there to just talk about how smart they were and how cool their things were, but literally wanted to make a change.
Yeah.
And so last year it was Transform Boyle Heights. This year, we figured we'd go a little bit broader, and it's Transform America. It's transforming America.
So like,
No small steps.
I remember when I saw Waiting for Superman, the movie was like, it was a great movie, but it hit me home because my mom went to Roosevelt High School, and Waiting for Superman, that area is where I should have went to school. I should have went to Stevenson, junior high school and Lorena Elementary. That's my neighborhood. And, but my mom bused me out to Palisades, and that changed my life. And the sad thing about it is, Waiting for Superman, the title, it's like it's waiting for this mythical character that's going to come with the cape and tight pants. Superman's not coming to save anybody. So the title was haunting, showing you the reality of what the outcome's going to be. Yep. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be Superman. I'm going to change Boyle Heights. Try my best to,
Yeah, that's great. And you did it. So that's the thing to me, is that I get a call from Will. He's like, hey, I've got this idea. We're going to change Boyle Heights. We're going to go and do this, and we're actually going to get about it. And the fact of the matter is it's happening. I mean, this is all kind of going on, and seeing it is incredible.
And been paying attention to the people, the molders. So I had a meeting here with Ron Conway. Ron Conway introduced me. All the time I say Ron Conway, I say it the way he answers the phone. Like, you call him and he answers Ron Conway. Don't pay attention to the phone. I just summoned my phone to ring. So
that's what being a futurist is about. You can use your mind to make.
So I called him, and I'm like, he's like, Ron Conway. So anyways, he introduced me to Lorraine Powell Jobs. And so I asked Lorraine Powell Jobs, like, hey, you have this program called, College Track. I know you do it in the Bay Area, but have you ever thought about bringing that down to Southern California to get the kids on track to go to college in the ghetto that I come from? Because your program is amazing. So she was open-minded enough to partner up to have a college track program in Boyle Heights. And then, just to send kids to college isn't enough though. Because that's like saying, hey kids, I know you weren't thinking about going to college, so why don't you guys go to college and, acquire this crazy debt? Because it isn't like there's jobs for you after you graduate. So I don't want to do that to kids either. Like, hey, let's go to college and get debt. That's not what I want to do. I want to be realistic, like, hey, look, check it out. If you perform like this, I will send you to college and you don't even got to pay me back. Only if you get a GPA over here and we make a vow, a little pinky swear, that the whole premise of you going to college is to create jobs. We don't want you looking for jobs. We want you to create jobs right here in the community. So they're like, yeah, let's do that. So then I'm like, yo, Dean Kamen, you got this program called US First. How much would it cost for me to get like a US First kit and then couple it with this thing that I'm doing with College Track? Not only do they go to college, but around these parameters of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Because if I was a scientist and I went to a kid and I said, you guys should be coders, you're gonna be like, whatever. I don't wanna be like you, dude.
Who wants to be a geek?
Right? But I'm going to school next year to take a computer science course. So it means a lot more if I tell a kid, you guys should take a science course, a technology course, engineering and mathematics, any of those things. Because that's what the future's about. It's heavier. And these kids, when I go there all the time. I come home and spend time with these kids. These kids are freaking like juiced up.
They are so
and they're
excited.
all like, gung-ho about changing Boyle Heights, about being like, hey guys, let's look at it. Do you guys want to ball like these rappers? Or do you want to ball like Carlos Slim and these technician people? I say over here. So let's discipline ourselves. I'm doing it. Okay, yeah, I did the rap thing, and it's pretty cool. But I want to go over here.
But you got over that. Now you're actually going to go.
But I'm still going to do music. That's my passion. But when you're working with these kids that are 12, 13, 14, and they're just starting to dream, you want to encourage them to see it the way the ball's going.
You got to show them that future. Yeah, you've got to kind of paint the vision for the future.
And by articulating what we just came out of, by saying, do you know that music is just old technology? Our industry is based on RCA, whether it's gramophones and radio and NTSC. Like, if there was a first Apple, it would be RCA. They own the radio, which is iTunes. They own the hardware, which are gramophones. And now, like, I like to thank God first off for this Grammy Award, and like my manager, what's up, Russell, and so you're holding a piece of technology. It's just old. It's a different type of phone. It's a gramophone. It's not an iPhone. So in the future, one day in the future, you're going to be sitting up there holding a phone. Like, I like to thank everybody for this phony award. It's the same. So when you tell the kids, like, yo, our industry is just old technology. That's it. It's an old platform, and the people that govern that platform forgot that we were technology, so that a more powerful, platform came and swallowed it up, and now just borrows the byproducts of that technology, songs. Right? The first music industry was sheet music. The print machine allowed you to print music, and then you bought pianos to play music, also hardware. But the difference is, you don't know in culture who created the piano. Like, who's the guy that created the lute? Who's the guy that invented the bugle or the trumpet? Because our industry doesn't even value the people that created the technology in the first place, how do you even expect us to appreciate technology?
Yep.
So when you tell the kids that from that perspective, like, hey, we need to appreciate the innovators, the creators, to the point where you should want to be an innovator, designer, creator of tomorrow. So that doesn't happen again, to where the person who invented the freaking harp, which is the first piano, it doesn't go invisible for the rest of, popular culture.
So I want to riff on history for a minute, because there's two things I want to talk about, two projects that we've both been working on. One goes back to history. I have a question. Who has heard of or knows about steampunk? Please raise your hand. Okay, so many people. So one of the things in the future hunting that we were doing is we started looking at steampunk. We started looking at steampunk as sort of an indicator of what we could learn about the future. So I was working with a cultural historian by the name of James H. Carrot, and James said, well, if you look backwards and you look at history, like the gramophone, like these, we can look back at these vintage different devices, and what steampunk is doing is taking the technology of today and putting it back into history. So they're actually changing history. And so I said to him, well, if steampunk and makers and hackers are changing history, doesn't that mean they want a new future? Doesn't that mean they want a different future from today? That aren't we using this old technology and playing around with this old technology to then think of what a different future might be? So we got together. It ended up turning into this book called Vintage Tomorrows, which is out February 11th. But it sort of looks at what can steampunk teach us about the future. And it really taught us that what steampunk can teach us is that people want a different relationship with their technologies. People want their technology to have a sense of humor, they want it to have a sense of history, and they want it to have a sense of humanity. And then while we were making it and sort of going through and doing the research, a documentary filmmaker started coming along, because you guys know steampunk. Steampunk's awesome. And he started filming us while we were doing the book. And so there's us working on the book, and then we started writing him into the book. His name's Bird McDonald, and the name of the movie is Vintage Tomorrows as well. And so I'm thinking about this, and literally some of this is going into the spec work that I do at Intel, looking at what we can learn from this culture movement, because it's all about technology, and what can it teach us about what people might want in the future. And so I'm all excited. I come back, and I'm sitting in Will's living room. So we're down in LA, and we're in Will's living room. Oh, and we need to say, so we're in Will's living room because Will and I were working on a project that we can't talk about yet. But it's very, very different than what we've normally done. So it's not about tech and it's not about music. But it's a creative endeavor. And let us just say you may see us both at Comic-Con in the future. So anyway, yeah, exactly. Oh, it's awesome. But we're supposed to... Now, so I'm there, I'm talking to Will, I'm like, dude, steampunks, and we can learn all the stuff about the future, and this is what I'm learning, and I'm showing him pictures, and he gets a smile. And if you guys know Will, he gets the will.i.am smile. And he kind of smiles at me, and he goes, come here. So we go, and he takes me through his house, and we kind of go up to his front hall, and he goes, check that out. He had made a steampunk turntable years ago, and it was gorgeous. It was made out of marble, and it had a turntable, and it had a tuba with a big thing on it. And I just looked at it, I was like, you did not do that.
Yeah, because
it was awesome.
So, if you like, I love Bollywood music. I love Asha Bhosle. She's like the best singer ever in the world. Asha Bhosle is like the bomb. So, part of the reason why the music sounds so hi-fi and real thin is that back in the day they recorded from the device itself, and it went into the cone, and the cone recorded it into the lacquer with a needle. That's why it sounds so thin. Similar to like today with laptops, the music doesn't sound great. It's just convenient. Like, it sounds pretty bad. Music, like the way we record it in the studio, it sounds amazing. Then we all just accepted that it sounds like doo-doo coming out your laptop. Or like your iPhone or your iPad, like, yo, check it out. And you try to cup it to make the sound go louder. Yo, this shit's crazy, right? Anyways, shit sounds horrible. So it's similar to like the beginning of gramophones and, phonographs and how it was recorded. It's mimicking where we just came from. So I was like, wow, if we had the technology today, I want to make my own turntable. So I took apart like this technique and just got the will. And then I went to like an antique store and bought like a old, antique desk from 1890, like 1900s.
Super ornate, yeah, it's huge.
So then I got a tuba from a long ass time ago and then chopped it all up. And then I put some speakers on the side of it, hidden to where you can't see them. And then I went to this guy that carves marble. I said, hey, I want you to take this turntable, get the dimensions from the turntable, and make this record, all the guts fit inside this marble. I want you to stick it all inside this desk. Then I want to glue this freaking tuba outside of it, put a speaker in it so it blasts out so I have the treble sound, and I want to put a boom on the bottom for a bass. So then I created this freaking I am a gramophone, gramophone, and so it's like steampunky, because I love steampunk. Steampunk really is like tech, and then throwing artists in there.
Yeah.
It's like technology, put some fashion guy there, like this guy that, so that's all that is really. It's like it's like technology with art sensibility and yesterday's aesthetics.
And that's the thing that you were telling me as we were literally, because I really couldn't believe it. I mean, you can imagine, I've been doing research, I think, ooh, I'm being a futurist and I'm future hunting, and I go and I tell my friend Will, and he goes, here, check this out, and he shows me something that he's built that is completely awesome. I'm like, oh, great. I've been future casted. Awesome. But, so we're sitting there, and then one of the things, so that's like one example of this future hunting, of kind of going around and looking at these and then turning it into something that we can actually build. And again, like I said, the book's coming out and the documentary's coming out. But one of the other, I think, examples, which I did want to talk about before we run out of time, is this. Have you guys seen the IM Plus? Have you guys? This thing is gorgeous. And I'm backstage talking to Will, and I was like, oh, okay, this is really good. I want to talk about IM Plus. Are you cool? We talk about this. And you pointed at him, and you were like, well, it does look kind of steampunk, right?
Yeah, it's steampunk.
You're always outdoing me.
No, because that's like the aesthetics of an old like analog camera that your iPhone plugs into. So, because I'm always in front of cameras, whether it's a photo shoot, video shoot, and I noticed that world hasn't really stepped up to today. So what happens is in a photo shoot is the guy, you're sitting there, he's like, all right, that looks great. Then the guy's assistant comes with a light meter, and then the light meter guy tells the guy with the camera, he's like, oh yeah, that's 5/6. Then that thing doesn't talk to the camera, so then the guy's like, oh, that's great. How about if I put 5 over 7? Oh, I think that'll be cool, right? Then, if you're recording audio, then the guy comes with a slate, and the slate tells you the sync because the sync and the video and the audio don't talk. So I'm sitting there like, wow, this technology they don't have relationships with each other. So then I was like, okay, I want to create new types of cameras that all talk to each other. But let me start first. So I met this guy named Chandra like years ago. And all the time I meet people, I put in their phone what they do. I'm like, wow, you make hardware? That's freaking awesome. How old are you? Wow, you're younger than me? All right, cool. Chandra, hardware guy. So then in May of last year, I had this idea of taking my iPhone and making my iPhone, making a case for the iPhone that's the aesthetics of a camera, like these guys here. But the thing is, for them, they can't just send it. They have to put it in their computer, and then they gotta upload it, do all this crazy whatnots. Old school.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, guys.
So those guys are going to be disrupted in 5 minutes. The disruption's coming there next. Not just for those ones, but also the cameras that take your content, like when you're watching television or football games and all those, it's all old school shit. So it's going to be disrupted next. So I was like, I need to go fast, dude. If I want to be a part of the disruption, I got to work quick. So came up with it in May. Chandra came to London, in February. Chandra met me in London in February. And then told me the idea. I was like, I want to take an iPhone, old school aesthetics, put it in, just like film, put it like that, right? And you, just like a film cartridge, you lock it in, snap it, clack, clack, has different lenses on it, flashes, battery, and a keyboard. Right? I just want to do that. I want it all out. And a toothbrush. You know what I mean? I just want to... No toothbrush, no toothbrush. But
Not yet.
I want to just start. I want to do that. So we did that. So we had in February. He shows me the a non-working prototype in May, April, right? And then we had a working prototype in June. And then he says, hey, Will, I think we have a problem. I'm like, what is it? You know the iPhone 5 is coming out in September. Are you fucking serious? Well, then you're working on the 5 yet. He was like, well, we don't have the renderings for the 5 yet, so we have to wait. I'm like, all right, cool. Keep going with the 4s. It's cool.
Yeah, the 4s. Out. I mean, I've got the 4. The 4's
Keep going with
awesome.
the 4s. And so then I'm like, hey, but check this out. We should also do them for the iPads as well. He was like, hey, I have a workaround to put a sensor on them so we could put our own sensor on our camera and we could have better lenses where you could put 35 millimeter lenses, Zeiss lenses, that lens on our 5s that come out in April. You'll be able to put that lens that you're looking at me on your freaking camera. Our little adapter for it, put any of these lenses, but the thing, it's social. So that's why we called it photo social, right? Because that's just a photographer. Right? He's not a photo social photographer. So I want to disrupt that only to start for movie directors or television directors, right? I've noticed because I'm always in front of it. And the edit always takes so long because the editor is not in communication with the DP or the director. So I'm like, you know what? We need to speed up this process. We need to have a mechanism, hardware that allows you to have a pad. I ain't even gonna tell you my ideas. It's gonna come because I don't want nobody to steal my disruption. You know what I'm talking about? I see it, right? Because I'm in front of it. So I have a different perspective. So I'm really trying to protect this disruption, but we planning the disruption. So that's part of future hunting too.
Yeah, right there.
Future hunting is also paying attention to the next conversations to disrupt. For example, Instagram disrupted Kodak only because Kodak was too busy trying to convince you why print is still relevant. So because they're wasting all of the verbiage, telling you why they're important, here comes somebody else with a better conversation to render them obsolete. I'm not going to compete with you. I'm going to render you obsolete by disrupting your conversation with the public because you're too busy convincing them that you're still relevant instead of giving them something else that disrupts what you were doing yesterday. So future casting is also paying attention to different things to disrupt. It's kind of rude, But it's only rude if you don't truly disrupt. Like imagine you're talking to him and I come and interrupt, but the conversation I brought in wasn't entertaining. You'd be like, you fucking rude ass. But now imagine I interrupted you and made everybody laugh. You're like, you're so fucking amazing. You need to hang out more. Same shit with technology, pop culture, marketing, all the same thing. So you want to disrupt and create friends after you did the disrupting.
And it's that understanding of people, and that's why I love the Instagram example, because then it comes back to the steampunk idea, is that, again, we were saying that people want their technology to have a sense of history, right? We want to be able to touch it. Once the design has a sense of history. You've still got awesome stuff. You've still got amazing technology in there, but it has a sense of history to it. And Instagram's another great example. You've got a super high-tech camera, right? 8 megapixels. You can take a picture, and what do? You make it look like a 1970s photograph, and you show all your friends like, oh, check it out, it's really cool. You've basically detuned it.
That's because there is this thirst for personalization. Even if the personalization looks just like hers, but the options. Like we live in this like opinionative world to where we listen only to reply, but not listen to understand. Like we live in a society where it's like, I want to reply, but even though I don't understand what I'm replying to. So that's a culture that we've unfortunately been
That's where we find ourselves today. Yeah.
So in working on this, I realized like, wow. So a lot of the team that I put together from Singapore, we have a team in London, team in San Francisco, in Bay Area, and in Los Angeles. And it's easier to do it overseas than it is in America. So I'm like, I come from the projects, right? I come from the ghetto, and right next to my project are factories. And every project in America is next to some industrial factory. And right now, those factories are abandoned. So I'm like, what's wrong with this picture here? Here I am creating things, right? Not only did we come up with it in February, but we got it in stores for Christmas in London. So I was like, hey, so we got the prototypes? All right, let me call my friend that books me. Like, so check this out. I got all this team from just people that are out in culture. This guy named Tim Wade. Tim Wade, when I go to London, is a guy like, yo, where we going tonight? Hey, can you set up a party for us to go to? He's like, you want drinks? They're gonna pay you like 10 G's to go to a party and to give you drinks. I don't want their money. Why? Because that sends out the wrong images, messages that I could be bought. I don't want to go. How about we just go and I'll pay for my own drinks. Don't pay me to go to a party. Cool, mate. Are you sure you don't want no money? No, I'm cool. I don't want to be like one of those guys. So Tim Wade's that guy. Always sets up the night. So I'm like, hey, Tim, do you know anybody that from, I don't know why I'm asking you this, but do you know any buyers from retail stores? He's like, funny you should ask. I was just with one of the guys last week. Hey, can you set up meetings? I want to meet with one of the buyers from Harrods, Selfridges, Liberty, and Harvey Nichols. So he sets up meetings with all 4. They don't even know what I'm meeting about. So I'm like, yo, check out my non-working prototype. I would like to be in your stores for Christmas. And they were like, wow, we would love to carry that. Are you freaking serious? Damn. That was easy. Then we went there, and then me and Chandra worked out like, we got a store within a store. They gave us a store within a store. Then they gave us 2 big freaking windows on Oxford Street for Christmas.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, this is freaking crazy. Okay, now what is this picture telling me? This picture's telling me that I should go to the factories next, dream even bigger, so I can make these things and the projects down the street from the projects I come from and create jobs, because the people from my neighborhood are proud that I'm left. But I don't want to just leave. I want to go back and create these things down the street and create jobs and teach kids technology.
Yeah. And it's happening. I mean, it's happening.
And only that. So usually in my world, you have this manager guy, and the manager guy introduces you to this guy who has this thing that he built, and then he wants to leverage your popularity, and then they say, hey, we're going to give you like 5% of this company, you know what I'm talking about? And then actually it's 5% of 5%, and we want you to go out and promote it. We're going to give you an advance of like $7 million. You're like, what, $7 million? You're like, yeah, it's a quick, easy payday. Then the artist gets $7 million. The freaking company gets sold, like, get a valuation of $1 billion. Then 2-3 years later, you're sitting there with your thumb in your ass like, what the fuck did I do wrong? So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to use my own money. I'm not going to go VC route and just fund it myself, find my little team. Everybody in my team was like, you shouldn't do that. You're going to waste your money. I was like, I already escaped the project. I know how to get out that shit.
It's like, what else you got? Look what you came from.
Come on, dude. I'm using my own money. I don't want to, what?
But this is one of the things I want to go back to because we need to start wrapping it up. But because I want to go back to the retail side because one of the things that we had talked about is you literally changed the retail experience. So you used all the stuff that you had learned, future hunting, going out, looking what people were doing, also what people weren't doing when it came to that. And this pop-up store was something different. And shit.
So because there's a company named Musion from London, and then so I couldn't go to Germany once. They were like, we want you to go to Germany to perform with Cheryl Cole. I'm like, oh, I can't make it. I'm over here doing things with the P's. They said, do you want to get hologrammed? We saw you get hologrammed on CNN. I was like, yeah, but that happened in the TV. They're like, no, we got this new technology. You can hologram in person. I'm like, are you freaking serious? So anyways, hologram happened, made a connection in hologram land. So in my pop-up store, we had a freaking hologram. And people were shopping and shit. I'm hologram like, yo, what up? Yo, it's just crazy. Anyways, it's so little compared to, what Apple does. It's amazing.
But it's an incredible story, right? It's a story where you saw something. You saw what people were doing, what they weren't doing. And I think it's a great example of what future hunting and this idea can be to go out, understand people, to make changes, make disruptions. You did it on your own, which is absolutely amazing. And when you do it that way, you can also make the decision of how you want to do it. That you not only want to do it to make cool stuff and be really popular and go out, but you also want to do it to positively affect the lives of people. You want to touch people's lives and make their communities better, make them healthier. It goes back to this idea behind transform and behind transformation, and that is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and that's the reason. Like, I could have went the VC route and raised money and stuff like that. I don't think this is the time to do that. I'm supposed to prove what I believe in with my own skin. So when I step out to raise money to build factories in Boyle Heights, people believe in my ability to move things and bring people together and think outside the box as far as like, not even think outside the box. That's so thinking outside the box. You want to think inside the box, kick the box, and turn the box into a circle. You want to think outside of it. You want to stay in it because everybody's outside that bitch now. Like, yo, check this out. It's pretty empty in here. Before everybody comes in for shelter, when they realize it's, the box was a safe place at one point in time, let's stay in here, kick the fucking sides, so that when people want to come back, they don't even recognize it anymore.
You change it. You completely change the game. So we got to wrap up. So like I said, so keep an eye out for Transform. It's something we're both really passionate about. It's happening next week. We've got amazing guests.
Yeah, Bill Clinton's going to speak.
We're going to have
at my
President
Transform.
Clinton there. We're going to have Alicia Keys.
Alicia Keys is coming.
So it's going to be really, really awesome. And then also, if you like this, keep an eye out. Certainly in the future for the camera.
The dream
it's coming
is
soon.
The dream is for it to be at Apple stores. So if there's anybody that knows anybody there, to have these in the Apple stores,
call him.
That would be freaking amazing.
And then,
especially when you guys see the iPhone 5s with the lenses, where you can put any lens on it. It goes from a 8 megapixel to a 14 megapixel, like we bump up the pixels. And then we have for the iPad mini with a 4K sensor on it, you can put like 35 millimeter lenses on it. All those things are coming, right? So if those could be in Apple stores, that'd be dope.com.
So keep an eye out for all of that. We are, unfortunately, they're going to pull us out. So keep an eye out for that. Certainly keep an eye out at Comic-Con. But also, if you like this future hunting stuff, I really, really recommend follow Will on Twitter. He's at iWorld. And I'm Intel Futurist, at Intel Futurist, because we basically tweet about this stuff and talk about this stuff constantly. So unfortunately, we can't take questions because literally this thing is blinking at me and it's very upset with me right now. Because we could keep doing this all day, but we can't.
Oh, this is iAm Plus. The name of the company is iAm Plus.
iAm Plus.
And the product is Photo Social, FOTO Social. And the reason why iAm Plus, I realized that my name was a hashtag. Like all the time you type my name in an email, it shows up like you can go to it. So it took me 5 years to get I.am. So when you purchase iAm Plus Photo Social, if your name was John, you sign up to I.am, I am John. So I noticed that everybody on Twitter was like, I am Diddy, I am Beyonce, I am. So I'm like, oh shucks. What would be a nice platform for everybody's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, and you plug it in, and then you have an I am David, I am John, and it houses all of your stuff, seeing that I am is already culture of what people are on a social realm. Where I am for GPS, who I am for identification on a social platform. So this is all the stuff that I've been aggregating to turn into a real brand, but I've been doing it on my own while I go out and do my day job. But, you know, we're getting there. We're getting there slowly but surely.
It's getting there.
But
So
it took me a while to acquire i.am. It took 4 years, but now I got it. So it's pretty fresh.
They're going to give us hooks. So keep an eye out for Vintage Tomorrows. It's also coming out soon. And thank you guys so much. Have a really great conference. Really appreciate it. And Will?
Thanks, Mayan.
So that's future hunting. Thanks so much, guys. Brilliant. Thanks for
Everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We have one more session coming up in this room, and it's the Music Studio with David Mash from the Berklee College of Music and Ayil Amir. So please hang out, and we'll learn about GarageBand and producing music right here on your Mac and iPad.